Let's record.
I think I'm like a 12-year-old boy in a 42-year-old woman's body.
There you go. You must keep life interesting.
Especially since I doodle. So if I get to doodling and something comes across the page that's not supposed to look the way it does, just forgive me ahead of time.
Yeah. So one of the things that Dana does that I love is the doodles. And I wish I could have a setup with cameras like Dana does, because we're going to see something amazing today. I don't even know what it is, but I teach kids to draw their notes, and I do so many drawings. It's surprising that I don't do them on the internet, but I don't know how to do those fancy things. I'm actually not very tech capable. Hello, everybody. My name is
I'm going to give you the best tip in the world, Seth.
Give it to me.
Okay. Everyone can doodle. It's just basic shapes. So if you think of it as lines and basic shapes, and you look at something you want to doodle and you think, all right, what's the most basic shape I can start with? That's the easiest way to go.
I would agree. I think people overthink it and they say, I can't draw. And I'm like, what does that have to do with anything?
Yeah.
So my name is Seth Perler. Welcome to TFOS, the Executive Function Online Summit. We are Seth is Brain Friday. It is Monday, August 23rd. I've been going nonstop for a few months, every day, 7 days a week, literally. And I'm a bit overwhelmed, but we're going to talk with Dana today about your overwhelm. So we're here in the Facebook Live. You might be seeing this recorded on YouTube at the point that you're watching this. But either way, Dana Abraham from Calm the Chaos is fantastic, has a setup. We're going to see some drawings today, and we're going to talk about with Calm the Chaos, what Dana does. We're going to talk about overwhelm, and you, the person taking in TFOS right now, who might be overwhelmed, and your brain might be mush. Me, but also it's super relative, obviously, to our kids and when they are overwhelmed. So Dana, what can we do? Oh, and if you haven't bought TFOS, look at the page about it. You might actually like it, because for $100, it's kind of ridiculous, because it is absolutely amazing. And I'm not just saying that. We created something where you're like,
can I open up the TFOS group so that I can see comments? Is that a thing?
Yep. You can see comments in the TFOS group. There have been a lot of great comments.
All right. All right. Let's do that. I'm going to get some
crazy awesome this year. I don't think we've had.
It doesn't have a link. You know that, right? It just says Dana Abraham, Calm the Chaos.
Yeah, that's what you say.
Oh.
We're here live.
You needed a link for people to be able to go get just a regular link. Where do they go and get the recordings
of TFOS?
Yes.
I'll pop it in. I'll pop it in right now.
Okay, pop it in there.
You tell us about overwhelm.
Okay, so overwhelm. Oh my goodness! If you guys have been watching TFOS, which I know you have, first of all, I want to know what has been your biggest takeaway so far. I also want to know, how many videos have you watched? Be honest. It could be 1, it could be 30. How many speakers did you have? You had a lot.
We had 23 speakers, including myself, and then I bookended it. So I did a first and a second. So there were 24 talks total. Plus, if they did the watch Facebook Lives, there's more that people were taking in. Plus, and a lot of people in the comments said that they would take sometimes up to 2 hours per talk, because they were taking notes and drawing stuff. And yeah.
So I see some people are commenting here. That's you. Great. And so I'm curious how many talks you listen to. And as you're listening to one talk, if you're anything like me, the information comes in and you are like, this is so good. I'm totally going to do that. I am 100%. The next time that my kid is struggling with something, I am going to do exactly what they just told me to do. Seth, can you think of like some of the biggest like strategies that people have taken away so far?
Yeah, I mean, one thing, just what you just said, if I might say this, I was just interviewing Dr. Joe again today, and he said something, and I was like, I totally forgot that he even said that when I interviewed him. But I interviewed 22 other people, and I can't even keep track what they said. But a strategy that we heard quite a bit about was the word notice, to saying like, I notice.
Okay. So I'm curious.
So open-ended
right.
communication.
So use open-ended. I
less
know you
top
did a
down.
talk about not using consequences. What was one idea from that one?
For not using consequences.
Yeah.
I don't even remember what you're talking about.
You had a talk with someone yesterday about PDA
Oh
and
yeah,
not.
yeah. God, Dana, I
See, help them out, guys. In the comments, let us know your biggest takeaways. Here, I'm just going to go through
my brain
real
is so
fast,
filled, recall,
right?
and my
So here,
executive
I'm
function
just
is
going
so
to do a
tapped.
quick scroll through your group, right? So Tasha says that using effective commas. I'm guessing this is pauses. I didn't see this yet. Oops. Sometimes I don't spell right. All right. And then we've got someone else in here saying to use a
Affective. Yeah, that was
personality panels. Is that right?
yeah. And then the affective was they had misunderstood what they were saying.
Gotcha.
I can't see
Okay.
what.
I'm just looking. So let's see here. Was to not be, don't be your child's EF. Okay, and then takeaways, you've got a bunch here. Brain mapping.
It's so funny, but for everybody watching, like my brain is so, my executive function is so, by this day, by Monday, so sleep deprived. And so like I can tell I'm just like
Buy-in.
my recall
Right,
is
so you're even, right? And so what this shows me, right, is that when you're dysregulated or you're in overwhelm, it doesn't matter how good the strategies are, you're not going to be able to use any of these because you're not going to be able to access them. And so that's the same for you, whoever's watching. It's the same for our kids.
so you were
But
saying the parent is like, I'm going to use that strategy next time X
yeah,
happens.
so there's all these strategies that you've now learned. You've learned more than 24 strategies from the 24 talks, right? Some talks you said took people 2 hours to go through because they were writing down all the strategies and all the phrases and all the things they were going to do. And then we think they're going to go off, they're going to feel really good, right? They've gotten this like dose of all the great chemicals in their brain when they've learned the information, and they're like, yes, I can totally do this. This whole community's going through this at the same time. Like, I feel so strong right now. But what's going to happen is in a day or in a week or in 2 weeks, the further away you get from point A when you learned this information, the more it's going to start fading away, and the less you're going to remember the clear takeaways. And so when you go to interact with your kids, when you go to use an open-ended question or an open-ended statement, when you go to try to get your kids buy-in, when your child is struggling with executive functioning, when you're trying to figure out what your kid is interested in, any of those things, you're going to get, your brain is going to start to feel like this, right? And you're trying to find this one little nugget that's stuck in the middle of that chaos. And what happens is we start to feel really negative about ourselves. Like, oh, why can't I remember that? I should know this. I watched all those videos. I went to all those trainings. I should know this information. And what I know is if you're at this summit, and correct me if I'm wrong, Seth, but I find that people that come to this summit and follow you, me, or any of the experts here, they are like lifelong learners. So they're always learning, and they are always trying to be better parents, be better teachers, be better therapists, always trying to understand their kids in a deeper way. But what that means is they're constantly taking in information. Would you agree with that?
Yep.
Okay. And so what happens is when we're constantly taking in information, our brain remembers the first and the last thing we've heard, right? And so it's the primacy effect. And so if a recency effect. And so if you hear the first thing and you hear the last thing, all that other stuff is going to get all murky. And so when I'm going through a summit like this, number one, I buy the recordings. Now, this is a shameless plug for me to tell people to go buy your recordings for the summit, but it's also to help your brain. It is the biggest gift you can give your brain if you've watched even one of the sessions and you're like, yeah, but that's the only one I needed. Even that one session, to go back to just that one session and go back through it and get really clear on an action plan. I'm going to show you how to make an action plan here in a minute, but get really clear on your action plan from that one session. It is worth its weight in gold to get the recordings, not to eat all of it like at a buffet, which is what many of you guys have been doing. You've been just shoving your face with all the information and shoving your brain with all this really good food. However, now you're full and you've probably got a bellyache and you're a little overwhelmed and you feel a little sick. And so to get the recordings is going to be so important. And so I get nothing out of this. I just want you to not beat yourself up in a week, not feel like you've done something wrong when your brain is doing exactly what it's supposed to, and it's telling you to stop, right? It's telling you you've got too much information. It doesn't know what to do with it right now. So you put the link in the comments, right, Seth, for people to get the recordings?
Yep.
Yes.
I put the one, I put the one to the live.
Okay.
That's going on now. Should I put the one for the recordings in it?
Yeah, I totally want people to go grab those recordings because I think it is super important for people to grab the recordings.
All right, that's there.
Yeah, so that's number one. Number two is grab the recording. Number one is grab the recordings so that you can go back to it. Number two is I want you, when you're feeling overwhelmed, is so often we've got a really big problem in our house right now. And I don't know if anyone else has a problem like this, but we have all these flies in our house and they're coming in from the summer, from the hot weather, and they're everywhere. And one of the things that I notice is when they're at the window and I'm like feeling really kind and don't want to like smash them or use the fly swatter, I will open up the window and try to get them to go out. And I'm sure, Seth, you know exactly what they do. What do the flies do when you open the window?
I don't know, but
you don't know what do flies do when you don't ever get flies? Now I'm jealous.
I know. I mean, I'm in Hawaii and we get bugs like crazy. I have a very clean house and I had a cockroach the size of my head the other day.
Oh my goodness gracious.
But
so what I find
when I would open a window and try to get a fly out, I would think it's not going to listen to me to go out is where my brain goes. I don't know what they do for you.
So what they do for me is they just keep hitting the window. Like they're like, bzz, 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 and then they just keep hitting the window no matter what I do.
I thought you were saying that you opened it for them. Sorry.
I did open it, but they still keep hitting the window no matter what. They're not. So one of the things that I tell people to do, the first thing, instead of trying to, you're like the fly, right? You're trying to hit the window and you just keep trying to solve the problem. And you're like, it's in there somewhere. I'm going to fix this somehow. But what you have to do, number one step, is that you have to stop.
Pause.
Yeah, it's a pause. You have to stop. So, which I know a lot of the people this week have talked about pausing, right? And it's so important because if you keep going, if you keep saying, well, I'll just watch one more, well, I'll remember it. It's okay. If I just keep trying, it's going to come to me. And our kids are the same way, but we have to stop. I mean, I even almost said that to you today when you were like, I'm so tired. I was like, we can just stop. It's okay.
I will
Wednesday. Just take a pause. Right. So I think that's number one.
It's funny because in my final talk, I talk about, like at the very end of the talk, what I say is when you're done with TIFOS, the immersion is like this massive stuff, but don't even think about it for 2 weeks. I said, pick 3 things that you want to think about and literally don't look at your notes, do nothing. You just, and trust the process, but go ahead. I'm sure these are our methodologies are similar, but so, stop.
100%. Stop is number one when we're overwhelmed with thoughts, is just to stop. Number two is, I think sometimes we underestimate the power of a brain dump. And so when our brain is doing this and it feels completely overwhelmed, after we've stopped, we've taken that breath, we've changed our scenery, maybe we've gone outside, maybe we've got a drink of water, we've gotten our coffee, whatever it is, then we're going to brain dump. So we're going to take all that mess and we're just going to unravel it with no particular order, and we're just going to dump it out. And I like to think of this as when our kids are playing with Lego and they're getting frustrated because they can't find that one piece. What is sometimes one of the easiest strategies for helping them find that one piece?
Well, sometimes when you're not looking for it, you find it.
Sometimes
So
when you're not looking for it.
keep going on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Another strategy would be to look for a characteristic of the color, the shape, or to eliminate other things.
Or to eliminate. Yeah. And so one of the things that we would do here when my son was struggling to find a Lego piece is we would dump it all out on the table, and we would start spreading it out and spreading it thinner so that we could actually see what's in front of us. But when it's in our head is going to catastrophize the thoughts, and it's going to be really murky and dirty and messy, and it's going to be hard to see what you're actually thinking. So when you dump it on paper, when you put it out, and I like to do, my favorite is sticky notes because they're movable. So I might start brain dumping some of the things, either the strategies or the struggles you're currently dealing with. Like, it's homework, or it's, it's my brain, see?
Arguments or
arguing and
procrastination or messiness or.
Yeah. So it could be the struggle that you're dumping out, or it could be all these ideas that you got from the summit that aren't crystal clear right now. So you can start dumping those out on Post-it notes. I like Post-it notes because then you can move them around and you can sort them out. So that's step number 2. I think a lot of times we underestimate a good old list, but typically people stop at the list. They'll make a list of all the things they have to do, and they want to do all of the things. Mm-hmm. And so what we suggest is that, and I know you're great at this, is prioritizing, because you can't do all the things. And so instead of looking at all of it, like you said, eliminate. So you're going to pick your top 3. You're only allowed to pick 3 things, and that's it. 3 to 5. If you are a rebel and you need more than 3, I'll allow 3 to 5. But so your brain remembers things in 3s, 5s, and 7s.
Because on my talk, there's a reason. If you're an overachiever and you want to do 5, don't do the 5. Like, for the sake of this.
Right?
And then we get into the people who are going to be like, but Dana, but Seth, how do I know which one's the most important ones to start with? I know you'll say something about that, because I certainly.
Yeah, I can do that.
Cool. Go ahead.
How do you know which one is the most important? So I can go into that. That's a little side jaunt, right? So that's kind of going off to the side here of like, how do we know which one's important? So we use something in our program called DQA, which is it dangerous? Does it lower the quality of life, or is it just freaking annoying? So if it's just freaking annoying, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't. That is not the most important thing. If it lowers the quality of life, meaning you're nagging all the time, or you're not getting anywhere, or your kids aren't able to do the things that they absolutely love because it's getting in the way, okay, that's getting a little bit more important. If it's dangerous, someone's in danger of being hurt, or they already are hurt, and that could be physically or emotionally, then that's where it's most important. And so you're going to take, if you've listed out your struggles, you're going to find your most dangerous items, and that's where you go. And then here's the kicker, is you can only choose one. When you're doing DQA of struggles, because this isn't picking struggles. This is picking This is when I'm listing out all the things that I want to work on. Because how many people are like, I want to work on homework. Oh, wait, I want to work on listening. Oh, wait, I want to work on getting their homework turned in on time. Oh, wait, I want to work on motivation. And we end up with this big list of want to work ons. And so that's what this is for.
Okay.
When we're
So
looking at, yeah, go ahead.
how's the 3 different? And I have ideas
Yeah.
to contribute if we want, but
Yeah, so the 3 is more of like the to-dos. And
right.
I'm gonna show people how to use our UQ to organize all this amazing content that they had in the summit so that they can pick those 3.
Good.
Okay. So what I do, if you're just doing a task list though, like let's say you've got a list a mile long to finish out TFOS today, right? So I'm talking to you and you're like, I'm overwhelmed. Then I would tell you to do stop and brain dump. Those would be my first ones. And then I would say, okay, you're only allowed to pick 3 things off your list. And you would say, but Dana, how do I pick the 3? They're all important. And I would say, it's the if nothing else rule. If all I did was, right? If all
I do the
I did
same
was
thing. I
this,
teach the same thing. Yep.
yeah, if all I did was this, then today would be worth it, right? I'd be frustrated I didn't get the other stuff done, but this is it. This, if all I did was this, then this would be worth it. And so that's what you're really looking for, is those needle movers, the things that actually make a difference. And I'm going to give you a hint: dishes, laundry, homework, they aren't really the things making a difference. Research actually shows that homework doesn't make a positive impact, especially on younger kids. So just know that you can go against the grain there. It's not the number one thing that you should be pulling out. So did you want to add to that?
One of the things that when we are looking at, like, for example, the 2 weeks after TFOS, when I said just don't think about it, we do want to, but people want to be doing something, just to pick 3 things to work on. The thing that when I'm working with families a lot, forgetting TFOS, but it's related to this. In a situation like this, when you're just picking those 3 things that you want to work on, like pick your 3 sticky notes, like you said, put them on the fridge of the 3 things. But people want to be like, what's the most important, or where do we start, is often a question I get. And the answer that I often give, at least in my work, is often, it doesn't matter. Just pick 3, because a lot of times what people are getting into analysis paralysis.
Yep.
And when you're working on a lot of these things, you're actually working on a lot of other things. So if you decided, we're just going to work on the backpack, we're just going to work on on laughter and connection on a daily basis, we're just going to work on this, those things naturally impact it's not reductive. It's everything's connected. So just pick something and just work on that. And you are working on other things. You don't, in a lot of contexts, you don't have to overthink it. Like, just don't get stuck in analysis paralysis where you actually end up doing nothing, because that doesn't help.
100%. And when I said choose one, that was going to be my next thing, is you can't choose wrong. You literally can't choose wrong, because let's say you start working on, like you said, maybe it's planners, or it's on, it's on cleaning up or organizing or whatever, right? So, or the backpack, whatever the different struggle is. If you pick one and it gets solved in a day and you're like, oh man, that wasn't the biggest needle mover, great, you're done with that. You can move on. And that, let's say you get another one and you just hit a roadblock. You could say, you know what, this one is just too difficult to solve right now. So I'm going to kind of back out of this, and I'm going to back out, zoom out, and try a different one. So that's something else that I would do. And I told you, so, and then that would be the next step, which is exactly what you just said. So this 4 steps is that once you have kind of put it down, you're just going to take that first step. And I don't know, do you teach the Pomodoro method?
Depends on the kid.
Okay. So I was thinking more for adults, not necessarily for the kid. But if you're, as the adult, what I find, chunking. Yep. Chunking the time. Yeah. So just taking that next step and setting a time that you're going to work on that is really important.
Yes.
Okay. So we talked about what to do if you're overwhelmed with the information and how to find that next step is to stop, brain dump, pick 3, and then take your next step. Choose one, right? So it's just, we're just getting it down to its smallest parts. And then you have had such amazing content. And what I find that we have been able to do at Calm the Chaos is take all this magnificent information that is out there, all the latest research, and it fits into what, my markers are dying. And I know some of my peoples are here. So if you are a CTCer, let me know in the comments. Okay, so this is what we call the CTC framework. And I guarantee you that everything, every single one of the 24 speakers fit into this to simplify and organize the information. So connect, I already heard you talk about that. Understand, we've already talked about that some with PDA earlier. And then empower, which is a lot of the strategies you heard was about empowerment and making plans and giving the kids the ability to recognize their own needs and to advocate for themselves. And then I know that you've had speakers talk about this piece, which is the you piece, which is for you, the parent, to be able to change your lens, to be able to remain calm in the storm, to be able to set those intentions and choose one thing at a time. And I know that out of the 24 speakers, you could organize the information this way. And you might be thinking, but Dana, there's still 24. How am I going to go through all of it? And so if you have that one item on that last page, that one struggle that you're dealing with, the cool part is that you only need a sliver of each one of those strategies. So we call this UQ. And this is the first step. So you said, where do we start? We always start with you. Because if you can remain calm, if you can change your lens, if you can change your internal language about your child, it is going to make a massive difference, no matter if they know the strategies or not yet. So here you would pick just one thing that you want to use as your reminder. And I think I saw one that was great that was like, you are not your child's EF struggles, or your child is not they are not their EF struggles. That sounds like a great one, right? Like they're not, their whole being isn't that one struggle. That's a great one to kind of remind yourself of when you're entering into a battle. It allows you to kind of stop and be like, wait a second, I don't need to add to this frustration. I can wait. Because I can see it different. And then C is for the connect. So you really only need one strategy to start out. So we're making you an action plan based on all the cool stuff you guys have learned this week. I'm not teaching you anything new, if you notice that, right? So take a connection strategy that can be done without any extra work, right? So I think I heard you say adding in laughter.
Yep.
That's something?
Yep.
Right. How are you going to play? Yeah?
Play or the 3-to-1 rule. Yep.
Yeah. So how can you do that? And in ours, we talk about, I know you call it 3-to-1. We do Gottman's 5-to-1, but we talk about moments of safety. So how can you provide those moments of safety, which is changing your body language or changing your voice? And I know the speakers talked about this because I know you had Mona Delahook. I know you had some others that talked about you being the one that's providing that safe place. And so just taking one of those topics, one of those strategies, not all of them, just one. And then understand this is really powerful. And this is the piece that gets missed a lot, is why it's happening, right? And so there's something that you've taken from this that is going to help you with this one, especially with this struggle, right? Like if you're struggling with homework, if you're struggling with motivation, if you're struggling with teenagers being organized, if you're struggling with refusal over electronics, whatever it is, there is something that you gathered from this summit to help you understand this piece. So when you have a conversation with your kids to empower them, you can model, you can help explain so that they can be more self-aware in the future. But if you don't understand why it's happening, it's gonna be really hard to empower them so that they can advocate for their own needs later on. Does that make sense? So you're just looking for one little piece. So maybe it's a sensory thing. Maybe it's a very particular little tidbit you got about how the brain works, or something awesome, because I know there were so many great speakers that talked about this. And then finally would be one empowerment strategy. So this would be the plan. One really cool plan that you're like, yes, like this is how I'm going to introduce this with my kid, right? So this might be, tell me one plan that was talked about. I know there were quite a few that some of the speakers talked about this is where the kid is able to advocate for themselves, or the kid is able to be able to solve their own problems.
Yeah. I mean, I probably won't, I guess one of the listening strategies.
Okay. And I know someone talked about planners as well, or like graphic organizers or whatever, right? So those would also work here. So you're really just picking one to start with. And then this is now your plan. This is your action plan. And what happens is when people leave a summit like this, they go and they try to shoot all the strategies at this one problem. And then when it doesn't work, they change out the strategies, and they change out all of them, baby with the bathwater, right?
And then
they're like, well, that didn't work.
Right.
And then they go back and they do all the other strategies again. But what we recommend is this plan has to be iterative. So you're going to make a plan and it's not going to work. Your kid's not going to listen the first time, and you're going to make another plan, right? It's just continually iterative until you get the plan that finally is just like, this one's magic. This one works. And it's not magic because it was one solution. It was magic because you picked the four. I mean, these are like the foundations of building a good relationship, of building, empowerment in our kids, successful kids. And, so when you have these four building blocks, all you have to do is swap out one U piece, then keep going again and see if that helps. If that doesn't work, swap out the connection bit and see if a different connection strategy will help. So now you're experimenting and iterating. And because so many people say that it's all trial and error, and no one tells you how to trial and error. That's what this framework allows you to do. You don't have to throw it all at the wall. And this is why, I am in love with this summit. I love everything about it because it's so honed in on executive functioning. So you've gotten a ton of understanding in this summit. Some of the speakers spoke really specifically about connection. Some of them spoke very specifically about your own lens and your own view and your own way to remain calm. And some of the speakers spoke very specifically about empowering your kids, about plans you can make with them, about how to collaborate with them, about how to build self-awareness, self-esteem, and how to build skills. That all goes in this empowerment piece.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Does this help organize and simplify all of this and get out of overwhelm, or did I just add one more thing?
No, this is great actually, and it's so applicable. So there are a couple of things I did. One, I made like a note-taking thing for people that was like a template. And what I put on there and what I talk about in some is that there are two real things that we're trying to give them is one is knowledge and two is action. And to me, it's like the understand is very similar to the knowledge. The empowerment is very similar to the action. And then the connection obviously fits in as well. And then the you really, we talk so much about the adults doing their own work on themselves, changing themselves, their perspectives, their own deep inner work, but also their self-care and what they need. And when I say self-care, I don't mean like go get a pedicure. I mean like what you need emotionally, in all these different ways, So yeah, I think it fits perfectly, and it's super practical. It's super easy to fit into all those places. Sorry, my brain is not in recall mode where I'm like so not able to think
That's what's
about,
great. Yeah.
but
Yeah. No, I hear that.
but it's super applicable because every speaker, I was like, if you notice at the end of the interviews, I would say, what's an action they can take this week? And then I say, what's something they can do in action parents can take this fall? And I like really push speakers to answer in those ways. But this fits perfectly with everything.
Yeah. And I'm starting to see some comments, which is awesome.
And it narrows it
So,
down to a manageable amount. And then the only thing that that I want to add is that what do we do with it now? And what I think we do with it is what you said is it's got to be visual. Post it on the fridge, post on sticky notes, post it on your mirror, make a little note card and put it in the car, whatever it is, or do things, but it has to be in our face, because when we need that strategy and we're in the moment, it's not there. And the more we're it's in our consciousness over the next couple of weeks of the basics, the
and I'm
more
going
we're
to go
going to be
back
likely
to
to be
grab
able
the recordings. Like if you don't have the recordings, I don't know.
Well, and that's how you get more granular later, because and that's when you revisit it and you're like, oh my gosh, so and so Dana said this. I heard her say that, but I know that they didn't just insert this little tidbit in there, but that I did not get that when I first listened to it. So as the dust settles and all these we don't even know the connections are being made, but when you get more granular, when you have time at your own pace, then it's like, boom.
Well, and what I love about just, I don't know, I feel like it gives you permission when you're like, okay, like I feel like getting the recordings is the ultimate permission slip, because it's like, you know what, I can get the recordings. I can say, you know what, I have done really well this week. I have watched a good amount of these and I've gotten some great information. And I know that I'm going to use this for a long time to come. And it's because you are. And what I was going to say, I was just going to say something just from the heart, is that if you have found your way here into this group, into this summit, you have, and into Seth's world, you have stumbled across something that the majority of the world doesn't know exists yet. Think about how many of you guys as grown-ups, you listen to this stuff and you're like, oh my God, I think this is me. Oh my gosh, this is why I procrastinated. Oh my gosh, this is why I can't keep a calendar. And this is why I misplace things all the time. And I forget to do things and I don't follow through. And if you've stumbled here and that's you at all, you've spent your whole life thinking something's wrong with you. And the majority of the world doesn't understand or even know that executive functions exist. And so for you to be here, you are already in this phenomenal place where people get and understand what you're going through. And so I think that makes it even more of a reason to grab the recordings, because you're getting a treasure trove of the best information on executive functioning, which is just, it's such a like diamond in the rough. And because most people don't know about it. It's what I think of as where sensory was 8 years ago when I first started trying to find information for my kiddo. I feel like executive functioning is there now, where a few people are understanding it, a few people are starting to speak out about it. But here you've got 24 experts who spoke on executive functioning and different aspects and how it's connected. This can only help you function in life, help your kids function in life. Like it is a no-brainer. And I don't put that lightly because I know the investment for some of you is not a no-brainer. I'm talking about the value. I'm talking about the resources you're getting, the actionable steps that you're going to get from the recordings. And Seth did not ask me to do this. I am totally doing this from my heart because this is something I wish I had when I was younger. This is something that I wish I had when I was first starting out with my son. And if I could, this is why I've been screaming it from the rooftops about this summit this week, because I know how powerful this information is. And that's why I think that everyone here, if you do not have the recordings, I would encourage you to ask, but how? If you're thinking, well, I can't afford it, it's out of my price range, or if you're thinking, I'm not ever going to go back and listen to them, then make an action step and put it on your calendar that you are going to make a date with the recordings and you are going to go back one video at a time, even if it takes you 3 years to go through the recordings, it will be worth it. So I would highly encourage you, if you just put that link again, Seth, for people, because I know you've got more people here. So I think it's so powerful. And let me know if you get the recordings, because I want to know and I want to salute you. Okay, so there's a question. Melissa says following through is so hard for those of us.
Can I say one thing real quick?
Yeah.
You know, with my ADHD and my executive function, again, I drove my team nuts with how we constructed the back end of the thing so that it could be something my brain could use, because I know, like the kid vids, I put it by the day 1, 2, and 3 and their own place. The transcripts, I don't just have in the audio, I don't just have under the videos. I also have a specific thing where you can just do all the transcripts at once or just all the audio and get on your phone at once. Like I made it like how I need it, you know? So it really is, it is overwhelming to think, what am I going to use? I think it's overwhelming to think, when am I going to use this? And I've been to a lot of summits and I do go back to my notes but I have my own methods, but that I have to like work around. Here, we made it so that it is consumable. In fact, the bonus that you did, like that bonus page with all those bonus speakers, those are just short, 5-10 minutes. Mm-hmm. You know, it's just like, I thought through, like they have these 1 hour things. Those are overwhelming. I want people to have very small things for this fall, this crazy fall. Like really, anyhow, sorry. I just wanted to say,
yeah, no,
thank you for plugging this, and we really did. Oh my God. We made it so that it's easy.
I love that you do that. I know you've got some good suggestions for Melissa. She says following through is so hard for those of us who also struggle. I've got some ideas, but I know you probably do as well. What are your thoughts for the parents who struggle to follow through?
For a follow through, you mean like on implementing?
Like they learn something. I think if you weren't watching this whole thing, go back and watch this with those action steps. But yeah, she just means she learned it. How does she actually follow through with this?
So less is more. It really is. So like what you just said is, they say it's simple, but not easy. It's really simple. But you know, and I have an induced, you know, the fact that I'm creating this for the 3rd year in a row, this is a massive project. I'm not a project planner. And when I say I have ADD, I'm not like joking. Like my life is good today, but I struggled my whole life. Now I have tools and I got the support I need and I have a good life. But so it's not like the struggle goes away from me or for you. But so how you implement it is it's okay if it's messy, but less is more. Like you got a lot this weekend. Don't worry about it. Pick 3 things that you want to work on. Pick one thing that you want to work on. And just, you know, start where you're at and baby step. I think that there's a lot of value in making a plan and writing things out, drawing things out, typing things out. So, and then also, you know, when you're implementing accountability, you know, grabbing some people in the group where you've seen their comments and you're like, I like their vibe, like connect with them and be like, hey, let's be buds. Let's be accountability buddies. Let's meet once a month, once every 2 weeks. Let's talk on the phone or Zoom and just like, you know, make a commitment to each other to hold each other accountable for what our own personal goals are. I do a lot of accountability myself. So I know myself. I know that if I didn't have my team, and if I didn't tell my team sometimes to tell me, make sure I do this, that I wouldn't, or I might not. And I have people in my spiritual life, and people in my personal life, and other people who and in my fitness life that I have for accountability. So if it's hard to implement, create your own pressure from other people with accountability to pressure you in a good way to implement the things. Don't do it alone. But it's just little things like, I meditate, like starting to meditate. People are like, oh, I can't sit for an hour. So set a timer for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
My friend Tunda, she does on Facebook, she does 2-minute meditations. Like, do 2 minutes. Like, we make things so complicated, and there is so much value in less is more. I would rather see someone do it for 2 minutes for 10 days, because then one day you're going to be like, oh, I just did 17 minutes. But that doesn't start when you say, I'm going to start for an hour. But less is more, less is more. I cannot emphasize this enough with kids. The way that I make progress with kids is baby steps. It is so hard for parents because there's so much anxiety, because parents come to me and they're like, if my kid doesn't figure this out now, they're going to fail 4 classes. And it's like, I am really sorry to tell you this, but they may fail 3. And if they pass 1, you got to understand how much of a success that is. I'm just using a random example, but in order to get them, let's say in that example, to pass 1, there's so many baby steps that need to happen, and the patience that's required to be able to, you will get to a point where you look back and you go, wow, we're not there anymore. But it's just baby steps. It's not, you have epiphanies and giant breakthroughs sometimes, but that's not what we're going for. Those are bonuses. So less is more. Pick some baby step areas that you want to work on, but make it concrete. Get it on the refrigerator, get it a plan, draw it out, like make a vision board. I don't care what you do, but do not keep it in here.
Yeah.
Because it's just swimming in a big mass of mud, and your progress will be so stifled compared to what it could be. I had to be very patient with myself, Dana, in my life, because I reach goals. So I'm a very slow learner. Like, I know I'm smart, and I know I'm good at certain things like articulation and being on, I'm so exhausted. I can't recall a single thing from the weekend, but I can process with you very well right now. Right. I know I have strengths and stuff, but I'm a slow learner. I really am. And I had to learn the self-compassion to be like, the only way I'm going to move forward with my brain, and a lot of the kids I work with, is be patient with myself, and just persistence with baby steps is how I've grown.
Can I share something you taught me, gosh, years ago when we first met and you came and talked to my membership? You were talking about with the kids and explaining executive functions and like getting organized for the school year and getting ready for the school year. And you were saying, look, if it starts to fall off in a month, like, don't beat yourself up. Don't get mad at your kids. Your brain is doing what it's supposed to do. And this is my like rendition of what you told me. You told me the sciencey reasons, but you were like, it's supposed to reboot and reset. Like, you have to go through a reset. And so just know that that's coming. And so we've actually made that a really huge part of what we do, because I need those resets. And so if you struggle to implement, and you already know that about yourself, it's probably not going to change immediately. So go ahead and plan in your calendar. Expect it. Yeah. Expect a reset. Expect yourself to fall off the wagon. Expect yourself to lose track, to not do the habit anymore.
Even embrace it.
And then, embrace it and say, what is my plan to reboot or reset?
Right.
When this happens, what will I do? And then you just pick yourself up. You give yourself that grace, that self-compassion you just talked about. And you say, all right, so, but it doesn't, I get so many questions of like, but what does that mean about me? And it's like, it just means that you need a reset. It just means you need a reboot. Yay, you're human.
And you can even frame it more positively. Like if I was working with a kid and they said, what does that mean about me? I mean, I do the same thing with an adult, but what it means is you are awesome. You know things about yourself. What a gift. what an opportunity that you have that kind of self-awareness. You are an incredible being. You have an incredible mind. Like that's what it means about you. You care enough to even say that. What does it mean about you? You care about improvements and growth. And
Yeah, that's beautiful. Love that. Are you gonna fall asleep, Seth?
no, not until after. And I'm supposed to go boxing class in 2 hours. I've been
Well, that
boxing
sounds
for
fun.
6 months, and I don't know if I'll make it today because I'm this, but like you said, my reset, like with I was saying the other day how much ice cream and pizza I've been eating, but with my fitness is like, I know that after this, and my hamstrings are so tight from sitting in and doing Facebook Lives for 5 days or whatever. And oh my God. But I'm like, okay, I got my yoga plan for Thursday. I got my boxing plan for Friday, definitely. I got a massage plan for next. Like it's like I'm planning my reset. So,
I love that.
but I'm off track, and I'm okay with that right now because this is my priority right now.
Mhm. Yeah. Can you guys in the comments just give love to Seth? Just
Oh.
pour love into Seth for all of the amazingness that he's put into
Thanks.
this and all of the, I mean, all the heart and long hours and all of that to bring this resource to everyone here. It's really
Yeah.
incredible.
It's funny, but before I started, I thought I'll do this for 3 to 5 years because the point is I do want the term executive function to be in the lexicon. It's in the lexicon now, but it's barely tossed around. I want to be in the lexicon meaningfully. And I thought 3 to 5 years, and I don't know if I'm making a dent or not, but that's the point, is to, bring it to the point where in 5 years we can, and I feel like after 5 years, I'm like done. I cannot, it is a lot. But thank you,
Well, it's
Sean.
amazing how much happens in that short amount of time. Like I said, when I first started on sensory
Move
processing
the
and wrote
needle.
my first blog post, there was nothing. There were just a couple. There was, of course, Out of Sync Child, which is phenomenal and life changing. And there was a couple books, but there was not much information out there.
Yeah.
So I
Well, I
know
hope.
that you are changing things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks,
All right.
Jessica. I appreciate that. Oh, that's so cool.
Oh, I love that. See,
Yeah.
you've
I'm
got
tempted to stop making adult videos too and just do them all for kids. But that's, we could chat forever.
I
Should we
know we
wrap
can.
up? How long have we been on
Yeah.
today? An hour and 9 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, we could totally wrap up.
All right. All right. Let's wrap up. What are you grateful for today? Put in the comments, what are you grateful for, everybody? What are you grateful for today, Dana? I end my calls a lot like this.
I am grateful for you. I am grateful that you came into my life and have shared so much information, and I know more about myself and my kids, and you are a resource that I can share with others. So I'm grateful for you.
Awesome. Thanks. I am grateful for, I'm going to say I'm grateful. One thing I'm really grateful for is in the group, the Facebook group, I'm not a big Facebook group person. I don't think I've seen any. I hate when I'm in a group and there's like negativity. I don't think I've seen
Yeah.
any. I've seen so much outpouring, and you just
Mhm.
saw this sort of growth of connection. So I'm grateful that there's good people, that you all are just good people, man. Just like-minded people. Love. I'm grateful for just. I don't know. I'm grateful that I get to do this work. So I'm grateful for you, Dana. Thanks. You're
Oh,
an
thank
inspiration. You're
you.
amazing. So thanks for how you show up in the world.
Well, thank you. Thank
All
you.
right. Let's wrap this
All right.
sucker up.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the comments. Thank you. All right, guys, go connect with your kiddos. Go laugh and play with them today.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Bye, guys.